The other day, I was browsing around YouTube and stumbled upon a speedrun of the Morgan Freeman fight by FrenchFry17, taking only 4 minutes and 17 seconds, and challenging people to take the title. So, me being a speedrunner, I thought, hey, I can beat that. So I set my sights on Freeman's Tacos, where I beat the shit out of Morgan Freeman. Or at least that was the plan, but there was just one problem. Oh, I'm only level 9. French Fry's strategy relies on debuffs which scale off hero rank. So because I'm 3 levels away from the max hero rank of 15, I don't do enough damage. Not only that, but I also didn't have any of French Fry's gear like the Necrotic Idol or the Minstrel of Ruin. So I had to go all around South Park and Casa Bonita to collect the materials to craft everything. As for the last 3 hero ranks I needed, I leveled up by bullying Morgan Freeman for 2 hours straight. Morgan Freeman took me about 5 minutes to beat and he gave me 550 experience each time. While I don't know if this was the most efficient way to level up, it was certainly satisfying knocking him around like a volleyball. Once I got to hero rank 15, I went ahead and copied French Fry's run but with faster inputs and beat it in 4 minutes flat. Hooray! I now hold the world record for beating Morgan Freeman! And probably a record for more hate crimes committed than Cardman. But that wasn't enough for me. See, I'm more of a router than a runner, so I wasn't satisfied with just beating Morgan Freeman fast. I wanted to push this fight to its absolute limits and make Morgan Freeman regret ever opening up a taco shop in South Park. So I went to work and started by analyzing French Fry's run so I could poke holes into it. Overall, I was very impressed with how clean French Fry's strategy is, though of course there's no such thing as perfection when it comes to speedrunning. French Fry's run relies heavily on debuffs, which is a very turn-efficient way to deal damage, netting a whopping 1,890 damage every time Morgan Freeman takes his turn, thanks to the party having plus 80% debuff damage. The strategy also uses 2 time glitches instead of just summoning past new kids, since there's no need for a 5th party member in this setup. There's also a very tight HP management, which is very satisfying to see, especially when the casual viewer panics over how close you are to dying when you know that you're guaranteed to survive. And of course, the fight ends off with Final Vengeance, which will instantly nuke the last third of Morgan Freeman's health. Not bad, but since I have about 300 hours put into this game and 8 years of experience routing RPGs, there were a few key issues I noticed right off the bat. While debuffs are a very turn-efficient way to deal damage, there's still a lot of extra animation time stacked on, which makes it a tad bit more questionable. In total, 13 seconds of animations play on Morgan Freeman's turn because he has 4 status effects active. This is on top of Wondertweak and Mosquito still having to actually attack every round to maintain their debuffs, which take another 13 seconds combined each round. On top of that, Newkid and Mintberry Crunch take a total of 5 defensive actions over the course of the fight, which all adds up as well. So to fix this, I made the following changes. First off, instead of relying on Mintberry Crunch and heals, I chose to go with Enrage skills. These ignore damage for 1 turn or until the shield breaks, while also making Morgan Freeman attack our tank, which should in theory cut down the number of defensive actions down to 2 or 3 depending on how many rounds the fight takes. As for damage, I wanted to take a different approach. When it comes to speedrunning this fight on Diabolic, you're really limited to 2 different strategies because of how damage works. First, we have French Fry's strategy of relying on debuffs. A big part of why debuffs are one of the most turn-efficient forms of damage is due to the fact that debuffs don't scale with difficulty. It doesn't matter what difficulty you're playing on, casual, heroic, mastermind, or diabolic, with this exact gear, at this exact rank, wearing this exact robe, with this exact hair, Morgan Freeman always takes 1,890 damage with these 4 debuffs. The other strategy is knockback damage, which works very weirdly due to being bugged. Knocking an enemy into an ally calculates damage as if your ally took damage instead. So if I knock Morgan Freeman into Mysterion with plus 332% knockback damage, Morgan Freeman takes 635 damage from the knockback because the game thought Mysterion was supposed to take that damage. So with just 3 knockbacks, I can do about as much damage as a full round of debuffs. So I built my strategy around knockback and pick out my allies accordingly. I initially limited the pool to these characters for a full knockback build. In case you're wondering why Professor Chaos is here, while he doesn't have a knockback skill himself, he can confuse Mini Freeman, who has 2 knockback skills, so he's technically a knockback unit for this fight. Meanwhile, Mintberry Crunch is missing because his berry debuff causes enemies to deal 33% less damage, which also reduces knockback damage because of all the bugs. So he is the worst character to bring. Overrated, unusable, unadulterated garbage. With this in mind, I decided to go with a party of Tupperware, Mysterion, and Captain Diabetes. For gear, I used a full knockback build with extra movements. Now it's time to go bully Morgan Freeman again. Oh, Morgan Freeman, I'm back! Instead of using a time glitch at the start to stop Morgan Freeman's farts, I summoned my past self and used Final Girl's Hammer Bomb to knock Morgan Freeman to a more favorable position. I then had Newkid taunt Morgan Freeman with Cyborg Scan's technique to keep the party safe. The rest of the party gets repositioned so Mysterion and Tupperware can knock Morgan Freeman around. Morgan Freeman will attack New Kid, which breaks the shield and inflicts shock, which is something that I now know thanks to my friend Raxer. Seriously though, why doesn't the game mention this? Past New Kid taunts Morgan Freeman while present New Kid knocks Morgan Freeman with a hammer bomb while also blocking out the right of Morgan Freeman to force Mini Freeman to spawn above New Kid. Mini Freeman will now use Gastro Smash to knock back both Tupperware and New Kid, giving space for Captain Diabetes to knock Morgan Freeman into Mysterion, who then proceeds to knock him into Past New Kid with another Dread Rush. Now, on the final round, Past New Kid uses Double Edge to get an extra turn and knocks Morgan Freeman twice with Hammer Bomb before he expires, as well as pushing Morgan Freeman into his final phase where he gets double turns. Now on New Kid's turn, Morgan Freeman is in a range for Final Vengeance, which marks the end of the fights. And the final time for the fight is... 3 minutes and 52 seconds. Huh. Okay. I mean, I did beat my old time, but only by 8 seconds? That was actually a surprise given how clean that felt. Why was the fight so slow? Or was I losing time? Did I remember to turn off the oven? The only thing I could really think of was Hammer Bomb, because the animation did feel a bit slow, so I timed it and turns out it takes about 14 seconds to use. Yikes. I knew it was slow, but not that slow. I could have ended it there since I did reach my goal, but I wanted to see how much further I could push this fight, so I went back to the drawing board and looked at all the places I could save time. In total, this is how long every action took. The hammer bombs alone cost almost a minute, so the next strategy would need to cut them out. But doing so would be no easy task. I had to pull out every last bit of knowledge I'd accumulated on the game out of my arsenal to figure out a new strategy. I tried using Mosquito for Gross Out to make it for Captain Diabetes missing his first turn. I tried some convoluted setups using Fatal Attraction to try and replace Hammer Bomb. I even tried using Spirit Boards, which unfortunately only had a 1 block knockback. I tested out many combinations of skills, brought in various party compositions, and even mixed and matched the wide selection of DNA with the movement artifacts to find some setup that gets me the perfect party positions and a perfect turn order to save time on this fight. But no matter what I did, nothing was working out. I just couldn't get the proper setup that pushes Morgan Freeman's health down fast enough, and it was all because of this stupid cactus. The only way for me to dislodge Morgan Freeman while also dealing damage is by using Hammer Bomb because of this stupid cactus getting in the way. No matter what I did, there was always just one thing missing that kept me from getting enough damage by the time New Kid's third and final turn rolled around. I was about to give up, but that's when it dawned on me. Why the fuck am I using Gans technique? I don't need 2 tanks, I can solo for just 1. So with that in mind, I messed around with some more setups and eventually came around to this. For party members, I settled on Mysterion, Super Craig, and Captain Diabetes. For skills, I had Double Edge, Hammer Bomb, Heat Wave, and Final Vengeance. And for my gear, I actually downgraded a tad bit by using the Terrorizing Blade instead of the Ebony Volumizer to charge up my ultimate gauge a bit faster and lower my damage just enough to push Morgan Freeman's final phase slightly later. At the very start of the fight, instead of just taking a single turn, I actually had Past New Kid use Double Edge in order to skip the expired animation by skipping his next turn. I still started with Hammer Bomb, but I then used Heat Wave, which only takes 7.6 seconds instead of Hammer Bomb's 14.3 seconds, and had New Kid follow suit with another Heat Wave. Mysterion then uses Dark Whisper behind Super Craig, which is only a 4.6 second animation compared to Dread Rush's 8 seconds, and then taunted with Super Craig's Shining Hate Finger. Morgan Freeman unfortunately can select skills at random, unlike the majority of bosses, so I needed to reset for him to use $1 Million Bitch Slap instead of Fart Sensei. On the next wave, I need exactly 3 knockbacks, so I have Captain Diabetes use Coma Combo to shove Morgan Freeman into the next phase, limit Mini Freeman's actions, and give Super Craig someone to knock Morgan Freeman into. This is followed by another Dark Whisper from Mysterion and then Mega Fist Punch from Super Craig. Now I need Morgan Freeman to use another $1 Million Bitch Slap which kills Super Craig but leaves Mysterion alive. On the final round, we get to see a neat trick that I found on accident. Past New Kid will use Heat Wave to knock Morgan Freeman into Mysterion. But because Morgan Freeman is 2 blocks to the left of Mysterion, Mysterion actually gets a double knockback. This only works under very specific conditions. First, the enemy getting knocked back has to be 2 or more spaces to the left of your ally. And second, it only works with Mysterion, Wonder Twig, and sometimes the Coon. It doesn't work if you knock enemies into them from any other directions, nor does it work if your knockback is less than 2 blocks. This glitch lets me cut out 2 additional actions as I won't have to double edge a second time. My ultimate gauge just barely fills up thanks to the Terrorizing Blade, so I can go straight into a Final Vengeance to end the fight. So long, Morgan Freeman. May you rest in pieces. Many tiny ones in your famous tacos. I'm just kidding, Morgan Freeman's fine. And now, the final time for this fight was... 2 minutes and 57 seconds. I was very surprised at how well this strategy turned out. I knew there was room for improvement for my other strategy, but I did not expect a whole 55-second time save. So now, I've officially destroyed the old world record and probably gave Morgan Freeman some severe PTSD every time I drop by for tacos. Huge props to French fries though. While the gap between our times is pretty big now, I had to spend countless hours pulling out every last trick out of my arsenal to come up with this strategy. If you enjoyed watching this Morgan Freeman speedrun, you should check out this video here where I explain how speedrunners beat the whole game in just over 3 hours. So now that I've traumatized Morgan Freeman enough, anyone else up for the challenge?